Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, creepy guy with hacksaw following me and my friends at old abandoned mill. The last time I went trick-or-treating. Hi, stranger. How my bandmate was attacked and almost ran over. This story is quite short and fairly uneventful, but I still felt that it was weird and felt like sharing. I went to an abandoned mill today with two of my friends, Haley and Kennedy. It overlooks a man-made dam across a large river and has many areas that cannot be seen from the main road. I've been here several times before, and although I've encountered other people, it's usually those my age who have just come to smoke or spray paint or even fish. Today, we noticed there's a truck parked by the dam. Kinda weird, as most people just walk from the road, but I didn't really question it. I noticed the windshield wipers are on and figure they're about to leave. We walked down a hill to a building that continues to some rocks that overlook the river. Within a few minutes, the man from the truck has walked down to the sand by the river and can obviously see us above him and knows we see him. I noticed there was something in his hand, but don't question it. We honestly are just really wanting to smoke and wait for him to leave. Eventually, he leaves the sandy area and I ask Haley to check and see where he has gone. I'm having a hard time explaining the layout, but I can essentially see Haley from where I'm standing by the rocks and I see her wave to someone. She comes back and says the guy has a hacksaw, is very close to where we are, and showed no expression towards her. Maybe it's just all of the true crime stories I've heard and my experience as a woman, but I suddenly feel very uncomfortable with this situation. If the guy were to walk closer to us, we would have no option but to move past him. In front of us are the rocks leading straight to the dam and river, which must be a roughly 150 feet drop at least. I don't want to assume he has bad intentions, but I mean he has a fucking hacksaw. Although I'm weirded out, I don't feel afraid for my safety at this point. We continue walking around the mill and very quickly notice he seems to be following us. He never stays too close to us, but certainly close enough to keep an eye on us. This place is pretty big and I know there's no way it's a coincidence. He's by himself and isn't fishing or doing anything. He's just walking around and swinging his hacksaw like a circus clown. I notice him looking at us a lot too. It's also important to note that it's really cold and rainy, so the ground is quite muddy. I couldn't help but note that this would make it harder to run if something were to happen. Eventually, we are all really creeped out. We decide to leave, but exit the mill in a different direction than we entered. Before we start walking, I notice he is in the direction of where we originally entered. We have to walk up a muddy hill that's maybe 0.25 of a mile to get to the main road, which is already in a pretty isolated area. As we're unpacking this strange situation, I glance behind me and notice the hacksaw guy is way too close for comfort and is walking faster than he had been. We pick up the pace as well and thankfully make it to my car, which is parked right at the exit. I still don't know what this guy was doing, but it rattled my friends and I quite a bit. I know he wasn't patrolling the area, as he would have just told us to leave if he was. My imagination sure can come up with a few scenarios though. Hey y'all. I've never posted anything on here, but I have had quite a few really weird encounters with people and I want to post about them. The first one that stood out to me was Halloween 2015, so when I was 13. I was already a bit old to be out trick-or-treating, but my friends and I decided to go. We were old enough to not need parents to come with us as it was a pretty safe neighborhood. In my old neighborhood, there was a row of houses that went over the top extravagant on decorations every year. Usually they made their houses look straight out of a Pirates of the Caribbean set, but this year they were all different horror movies. There was one house that seemed a touch off though, not as many decorations, and the lights were off. This was the house that was supposed to be modeled after the Jason movies, dude with the mask, you know him, but all they had was a man out front pretending to trim the bushes with a fake chainsaw. I happened to know the girl who lived there and the man wasn't her father, so I just assumed it was her older brother who was a senior in college who I knew about but never met. It was creepy, but it was Halloween, it was supposed to be. He would turn the chainsaw on and hold it near bushes, laugh a little and then walk around. I was walking out of the house across from him with my friends and he stopped and stared at us from across the street. Nothing crazy, he was trying to scare us and it worked. But not a haha, it's Halloween and that's scary. That's fun, let's get more candy type of scare. It was more of a what is this dude doing, I don't feel right type of scare for me. All of a sudden a huge group of people walked out of the house after us and I couldn't see him anymore. It wasn't until about 10 minutes later that I saw him again on a different street. It was about 10:45 and my friends and I decided it was time to head home. We all split up and I started walking home, phone dead of course. I get the weirdest feeling of chills and turn around. He's next to some people about 6 houses back on the other side of the street. No big deal. I pass a few more houses and feel off. I turn around and he's now 3 houses behind me and on my side of the street. I pick up the pace a little and like the dumb 13-year-old I was, cut through a few backyards to get away from this creep. I start to panic, and I break out into a run. I don't even have to turn around to know he's behind me, I can hear him. I hop back onto the sidewalk in hopes that people are there so I don't have to be alone. No dice. I start to get really scared and decide that since a grown man is chasing me and I cannot outrun a grown man, I'm going to just stop dead in my tracks and face him. That's what I do and he does the same. We are standing facing each other with about 2 houses distance between each other. He then starts his chainsaw and holds it near a bush out front of the house he's next to. He then trims it, letting me know that it isn't a toy, it's real, and it has a chain on it. I scream absolute bloody murder and luckily the lights in the houses turn on. He turns and runs, I book it home and I have never been trick or treating since. The next week I talk to my friend who lives at the house to tell her what a creep her brother is for chasing me like he did and that I was actually scared, and he took it too far. She looked at me confused and said he was still in Oregon. I was accompanying my alma mater during a competition one day a few months after I graduated. Got front row seats to their choral speaking performance and everything was great because I was surrounded by people, right? Wrong. I needed to go to the toilet in the middle of it, and when I was walking towards the back to get to the toilet, someone stopped me. He was sitting at one of the back rows where I passed through before going to the toilet. I looked at him, brows raised in surprise, but he just looked at me, grinning like a mad person. His friend stopped him, and I thought he just mistook someone. On my way back to my seat he stopped me again, telling me to say hi to my teachers. It was a school competition, so it was obvious teachers were going to be there. So I thought, well, maybe he's just a friend. Fast forward to lunch break, and I was going to my teacher to talk about something, and there he was, holding 2 drinks and just smiling there, grinning at me while he asked if I wanted a drink. He stepped closer and the feel of things was just not right. I stepped back, he came closer. It became so uncomfortable to the point I left and ate somewhere else. But a few times, I would glance their way, and he was still looking straight at me, grinning and doing the phone sign with his hands. It was like that the whole day, and whenever I looked he was there, watching, grinning. I got my period that day and was worried about stains, so I went to the toilet often. I even had to ask one of the students to accompany me because he would follow me wherever I went. Lucky he didn't come into the women's toilet, but still. The last I saw of him was when he was waving goodbye to our bus after I got in, still smiling, still grinning and still making that phone sign. Glad to say I never met him after that. When I was about 14, I was attending a music school and playing guitar with other young musicians. Some of them were my friends. We would walk to the school together and if our schedules didn't align we would go separately. One of my friends was Kevin, who was also one of my very talented bandmates. He was 14 to 15 at the time, very tall and lean, and definitely looked older and very mature if you didn't know he was that young. Kevin and I would often walk together. He was very laid back and always fun to have conversations with. I enjoyed his company. It was early spring and snowy. Kevin was walking to the music school by himself. He was carrying his guitar like a backpack which was in this water-resistant cloth-like case. All of a sudden, he felt himself being pulled back. A man was yanking at his guitar and guitar case and throwing him off balance. The man got more aggressive and asked him, "Where are you going?" As Kevin panicked and screamed at him to stop. The man finally let go of him. Kevin continued walking and checking his surroundings. He was getting closer to an intersection. As he crossed the street and got on the sidewalk again, all of a sudden he heard a car speeding towards him. He dodged it by getting behind a tree and then running away. The driver was the same man who attacked Kevin earlier. Somehow he caught up and started to pull on Kevin's case again. This time, Kevin let go of the case, pulled it back from him and struck him with his guitar as hard as he could. He was able to get away from his stranger unharmed. Who was this man and what was the point of his attack is still a mystery. The only way Kevin told me this story is because he ended up replacing his guitar. There was a deep crack in the back after that, so I asked him what had happened to his old one. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real life creepy encounters around